years. Yeah, the last Friday of the month. Yeah, music.
Hello,
Yeah,
No, my name is Ashley.
Okay. So I only know you from Facebook.
Yeah.
First time I ever met you.
They're two friends, and
Yo, I don't know
single
why.
women, and one's
I
retired.
don't know why. Brooke is in there though, right?
It is because I'm.
So sorry,
The
guys.
other person 1 year, so
It bothers me
they're
when I mess up.
used to,
Yeah, no.
you know, kind of doing shopping
It's
together.
just Ashley Brooke. I can't figure out how to change it back.
So they started out with one attached to, she wanted to.
Yeah.
She's
That is me.
It's all part of it, right?
No, you were right.
Okay. Oh, Jim.
What's up?
So I guess if you want, you can stare like while you're talking. If you decide to pace back and forth, you can
Stay
just
in the.
see. Yeah.
Imagine that.
Menu.
Here all the way across. We're still.
Yeah.
Pretty good. I'll stay in the zone. Yeah, pretty. So pretty good. Yeah. So that'll get some. It's been good audio from the taking. There's at least the last. Yeah, we were last month. We're like 7 last month.
Yeah, I know. I didn't realize that was.
If they can find, so
But it's interesting because you come in here
you know, getting,
and those people off track. And it's sometimes
more
you're-
familiar with
it's
he,
Yes, it's quite profound. Your challenges.
okay, so in the guys.
We'll work on a little bit.
And so they're very good content. They really, if they had been on the wish list, they both want to be they're very great. The one still working on designs bathrooms.
The word. If I'm baking bread, I get more value than I
They were like, budget.
It's purely, yeah, what I try to do.
And so yeah, so.
These go really well.
Perfect girl, they want to build, but.
Yeah.
Everything is. And then of course, but they're okay. It would be. So they're. So, okay, so they want, they each want for sure have one primary and one full bath, okay? The one who's so baby breed here, so she's also.
I think it's, are they going after Gator? They're going
But,
after.
yeah, it's just.
I like Gator.
There's some really nice that have, I mean, decent, stuff, it's just, and then I have,
I must have.
well, no, so the one wants to, I mean, they're both, so the one that's still working, that's a design. She really wants to practice. Yeah, which this builder that just do. They can bring everything, he can build a lot, and he'll also watch a lot, like he'll do that. So I think it's really. I know, yeah, so I'm very confident.
From all the big.
Disappointed, it's so lovely forms, but I'm like, they come out there and they, you know, they write it down.
Those things.
So they said we're gonna go that far out. Around. He said if they're.
Yeah.
Working. Okay, all right.
How are you? Nice to meet you too. And your name is Claire. Claire, okay. How old is it?
Hey, Josh. Probably
No one.
Oh, you're doing. Oh. You're an engineer.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Oh, okay. Oh, good. Yeah.
So she's
'68.
Oh, Bridges.
That's what I'm thinking.
So I just do it.
I don't know the lyrics.
Yeah, me too. It's it.
Yeah,
It's
me
more
too.
like, that's why me a lot of, like, the first part always applies to me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So they usually have. Some of the links.
Late to represent today. I didn't understand.
Yeah, so I would like that. Yeah.
And not overcome.
When I first signed up, I loved it. Started with lighter than I was.
All these side effects. Getting kicked at 170. It's real hard to
I changed. And so I, at that time, was one of our coaching.
It takes 2 or 3 years. But see,
Then, I don't know what happened.
Kevin Carson, but I'm made with
And then now it's up to my family.
For 5 years.
Last year, 59.
Okay, so anyway, so she was doing all that while Bridget was charging.
You may be remaining.
But you did get, every month and there was some other stuff. So anyway.
I stopped and got
So I
it.
figured out things. And I really don't think it's really nice.
I have nothing
And
left.
some of the things that I do, so that.
I don't
So,
regularly. If you said, hey,
a lot of people. Yeah, some of them. Wow.
Hi, Debbie.
You want to be sleeping like that.
I know.
Any-
What is it,
It's actually just.
some kind of flavoring?
So, that's right now.
I mean, I know that's an old shtick.
Start drinking.
Oh, that's a lot to unwrap.
They were just-
So then we went
You know, and, that's a whole, and then it advances again, but I just think. And
But.
I dropped off. And I was thinking, you know,
Shake out. It's good stuff.
so then I stopped. After you stop, I have another.
Hi guys, just a few minutes, I'll get the guy in there to order some lunch, so we'll kick this thing off. Yeah, we get the guy.
Yeah, good time, you're good. Josh did a great job, brother.
Thank you.
You and Buster humping here, got here early and more company. Well, somebody did all the hard work. Well, good for you. Well, you're super organized, bro. I see your emails. Super organized. If you ever get from me, something crazy, reach out because you're the habit to not reach out. They're trying to break the connection between going off and crazy. But the best lenders, and I don't know cross country well enough to know what
Well, the way I order appraisals is that we're not really allowed to contact them, so.
But
I mean, like, if it's not related to a property.
yeah. Also, if you see something quirky, reach out. I'm 15. So what? Yeah, who's one of yeah. Oh no, I'm used to it. That's a menu for me.
Yeah.
Hey Scott, you guys are. No, I thought I just remember your email because I'm seeing your email as if it's going to be real from space. Josh, the audio is pretty good, even down the line. No. Scott said it's pretty good. Right. Okay, that's good. Oh, that's really good. That audio is really good.
Yeah.
It's almost too good.
We don't have a
Yeah, that's really good.
specialized webcam equipment.
No, but that audio is really good. Well, I hope you get a number of people that so you can.
So what is it about?
Dude, we've done pretty well over the years. Yeah, no, that's happened for that's happened for real. On the real deal.
How can I help you?
Yeah. You got to get some options and stuff. You got to.
Oh, yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Good.
I watch that.
No. I want you to act like that.
Yeah, man. I called my mom. My mom hadn't done it yet. I'm like, what are you doing? So I did everything for her.
Your clothes and everything. School age kids and doing two nieces.
Yeah.
Right here. Oh, I'm matching. Oh, yeah. Savannah, and then Hawaii, then Bonaire, and then she's yeah. Reconnecting.
I don't know if
Working on it. Slow.
And some of them will squeeze, the hunters don't have 40 frames, none of them. They're not as good. I even had not yet. Because then you have a date.
Right now, especially.
For sure. All right, I'll look at
No, you.
I didn't know.
Thanks, sir. Hey, you're a good man. Next time I'm here, after I join as a member, I'll hang around here.
Right.
He's got to be
You're gonna start over there. Okay, you're gonna sit over there? Yeah. Okay. Oh.
You got where you go.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. As soon as we make our order, we'll do the same thing.
Oh, I thought we were starting. I thought it was better.
Yeah. Good to the bill. I'm gonna go on the phone. Like this, right? So he's been Equinox. It's $299. I had all Miami Beach in 1 year. The champion COVID came. I had to wear a mask. Not wearing a mask to work out. So, but things like this. Used to be a parent's kids grow up, whatever. But yeah, I know. But I like it. I remember my Knox with me. Remember the beach club? It's just nice. We're at the beach. It's all right there. It's a beautiful place. It's not super expensive. I'm out of town. This is my kind of place. Not a great show. I was a guy for years. I was a cow sniper. So I did 4 years. Shooting. And so you can't shoot one place. Yeah, that's hard to shoot. You know, they're literally. I shot a Barrett. Someone else is shooting. Constantly. You can rent guest again as a member.
And these are all, I mean, everybody that comes, you have.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, right, sure. Yeah, sure.
When it's open. Yeah.
So it's good to be the beginning. Yeah. He's regional with Southern Pacific. Well, let's say Pacific. John Gould, John's the president of the organization. John and Stan were together. Yeah, they paid a big piece of that, 6 or 7.
This is the troublemaker.
Do I need to bring that table up? Yeah.
Sure. BLT.
And do you would you like fries or chicken?
Actually, I'll sit up here.
Yeah.
All right, guys, I think we're ready to kick it off. I apologize for getting off a little bit of a later start than we wanted to. But I wanted to thank you guys, first of all, for coming in. I do this, Taylor, I've seen you at a couple open houses, so you guys have probably seen this whole analogy. This is the market we're going to, this is the market we're coming out of. We're kind of in this purgatory in the middle. So anytime you're going from here to here or here to here, when you're in that transition period, there's nothing more important than education, getting it out there. We can't let TikTok, I almost said Bumble, TikTok, Facebook. I just outed myself, didn't I? TikTok, Facebook, Google, we can't let the media and social media educate our clients. We have to make sure that we're out in front, getting the education, getting the right word out there. And today, it's a hot topic. So, Jim has the unenviable position of kind of letting us know the down and dirty of the appraisal world and where it's coming from. So it's up to us to make sure we put a positive spin on whatever he has. Because let the media do doom and gloom, let the media say the sky is falling. We have to be out there saying, hey, it might not be the best market in the world, but that's behind us. This is where we are now. And if you want to buy a home, you want to sell a home, this is what we have to do. These are the expectations that we have to set. So we have to do that up front. So we're transitioning. We're trying to sell. So it's obviously the most important thing is making sure the sellers know that, hey, I'm not going to hit a button and your house will be under contract. That's not going to happen. I wrote a little article this morning, if you guys saw it, and you beat me to it last night. I saw your post last night. I forwarded the same article you posted last night about how September is an awesome time to buy a home. So it's that kind of positivity. On the top of my notebook, I write WSGAT. It's one of the first things I write on top of my notepad every morning, and it's what is good about this. Whatever bad situation we're in, whatever bad thing happens, who cares? It happened. Let's figure out what's good. Take the good out of it. Take the good spin, and make sure we get that out there. So again, thank you guys for coming up. I'm going to introduce Jim Metcalf. He's been in the business for 35 years. I've known Jim since I started doing this 20 plus years ago. He owns HK Bentley. He's a wealth of knowledge, local area. Are you from here originally?
Born in DC, I'm here with some Maryland.
Okay.
Living over here.
So he's a local boy, he's geographically competent, which is a phrase I coined probably like 15 years ago when we were getting appraisals from West Virginia to do Alexandria. Those appraisers were geographically incompetent. So Jim is geographically competent in all areas around here in Northern Virginia. So I won't take any more of your thunder. Jim, thank you for coming.
And guys, I'm glad to do this. And obviously Scott and I've known each other for a long, long time. So these are like warnings, right? I do these all the time. And it's interesting what the response is like in different markets. But good news, I'm not here to sell it. Sometimes it's easier if somebody's trying to say something. I do have cards in my pocket. I'd be happy to give them to you. Private appraisals are fine. But if someone calls me off without a referral, we don't usually take those calls. Appraisals have become very kind of in the shadows. There's no one like you guys. There's not a website and a customer service number. It's changed a lot. So private appraisals are very litigious. So most appraisers are not doing it. I was an on-staff police officer. I'm in no way ashamed or afraid of court, but I don't want to do them. But I think it's important that he or your good settlement attorneys and you guys have an appraiser in your repertoire, Rolodex to be old. Because if you don't, we still do estates, we still do condemnation, divorces, plenty of those, and they do need an appraisal. So, but just the same thing. But I will give you my card, but I am not fishing for business in any way, shape, or form. I warn you that I've done a lot of these, I do them all the time. And I do them because I'm trying to stay close with guys that I've known forever. Because Benny's done everything he can to cut me into local court. And I'm seeing cracks, please don't take it in there, but appraisers have become the prostitutes for the great pimp, Fannie and Freddie. I know that, see, I'm crass right away. And a lot of people, I can see sometimes on my face like, oh, I didn't go so well. But that's what we are. It's the thumb of Fannie and Freddie. The appraisals are not what the property's worth, it's what the appraiser can get away with. I don't mean that with regard to value. Everything is automated. So you guys are familiar with scan. They know what a deck is worth in Ashburn. They know what it should be because they've looked at all the appraisals. So now you have CoreLogic owning everything. They own the MLS, they own Marshall and Swift, the cost handbook, they own the appraisal software a la mode. So we use the phrase seen naked in the shower. These appraisals are just, so you may have I'll try to give a real world example. You may have a deck on a townhouse in Brambleton where they put in speakers and sound and custom lighting and a built-in fire pit, and they drop 55 G's and the thing costs $7. We're not going to get it because Fannie Mae doesn't want that to be more than this. It might be a crummy wood deck, it might be a great Trex deck. And so again, my phrase that what we can get away with really becomes important. But so many of these things, Scott and I were chit-chatting, I feel like a damned oncologist. They never give any good news, right? So one of the appraisers the other day said he's on the phone talking. They said he felt like a call center operator of suicide hotline because they're getting calls from people, not him particularly, but loan officers. Not a very good mood. So I'm not in a bad mood. I'm in my 36th year. It's fine. I mean, I'm really very senior. I got these great business cards you've ever seen in my pocket. By the way, it's very dressed up for me today. So I had an agent, we said, give me the finger. So I came in, I was in a t-shirt. She said, dude, they let you dress like that? I'm like, well, first of all, there's no they. So we've taken COVID, unfortunately, taken a little advantage. You guys all look snappy, but the appraisers, you see the appraiser come in, it's not like that. I mean, I was always in a khaki shirt with logo and khaki, I mean, in the old days, those days have changed. So forgive me if the stuff is negative, because I think it's a little negative. Not about the market. I read the stuff all the time. My positive side, if I was piggybacking with Scott, housing is supposedly 21% of all GDP. I could name 15 vendors, you know them all, stagers, home inspectors, appraisers, loan officers, mortgage companies, that all surround you guys, surround the sale of a home. We can't just turn that off. We're in one of the fastest growing counties in the United States, one of the highest per capita counties in the United States. Come on. And Fairfax is no shock, and neither is Arlington. So we should be okay, but it's a little dark after what was going on, which was difficult. So back to the appraisals. I want you guys to interrupt me, please, on questions. I want this to be material for you. And I was telling Scott, I did one the other day. It's like, I think, man, we're like 2.5 hours in. Nobody even laughed because the questions are really good. And your questions are going to be not so happy questions either. Because you're not going to ask me, what should I do when I pray? It's not what we're talking about today. I have in the past. Now it's about where are we when I have a little appraisal? Where are we? The challenge today, if I say, what's the biggest challenge? Great question. You have appraisers looking back. Well, if we look back a month, it looks good. If we look back 2 months, it looks better, and so on, and so on, and so on. So now you got Fannie. And Fannie's a problem, I think, because Fannie controls, they made a fortune, we bail them out, but they really see it in one way. I don't want to play my fiddle, but I was involved in a big case with them by the quarter deck in Arlington, 1 bedroom, 1 bath condo, heart of COVID. I used high-rise comps, and I did not negatively adjust for position in the high rises or the pool or the fitness center, because we're like June of 20. Well, you can't use it. Who wants $1,000 a month condo fee? Fannie wouldn't hear it. And of course, they made a local lender buy the loan back. Of course, they just repackaged and sold it to Freddie, so the taxpayers got it one way or another. But Fannie's unreasonable. I'm not an anti-Fannie guy. I want the governor's board down there, which are losses beyond $150,000. You guys will see on here, I smirk a little bit because it's a Cherokee right here sitting next to me. I'm a citizen of the Cherokee Nation. So if you look at the stuff on the bottom of my propaganda, which is something I gave to Josh, but I'm a state certified SWAM business. I'm an SBA designated 8A, one of the most prestigious minority contractors. So when Fannie pushes me too hard or HUD, I just go, listen, I don't know what your problem is with the Native American owned companies. The next thing you know, they stop. But I laugh a little bit, and sometimes I have to repel those guys. And this is the feeling of like a dog. Every time you come home, you hit the dog with a roll of newspaper. Well, you know what the dog is? That's what appraisers are today. Because if it doesn't go through the system, we're going to hear back. It has nothing to do with his underwriter. His underwriter has nothing to do with it. Nothing. It's not a criticism or compliment on cross country or anybody else. It comes back. And it comes back before, during, and after. And I worked in Nevada, in Las Vegas in 2002, 3, 4, and 5. Physically, was still here with all the same ones you see here. Okay, Huff, Lennar. They wanted the appraisers to go because we knew the product. And somewhere in 08, I had 90 active lawsuits going at one time against me in Nevada. And all I did was new. Comp here, comp there on the subdivision, and somehow the appraisal was the appraiser's fault. So E&O paid for it, but that's what shaped. Now, I'm not still afraid of those days. I don't think we're in those days at all because we have equity and whatnot. But that's a setup as to why I think the appraisers are a little more sheepish. Scott made a good point, super technical. I don't want to speak professorial, but when Fannie got involved after Dodd-Frank, geographic competency came into play, but we also instituted AMCs. Once the AMCs came along, the reason the guy came from West Virginia is no local appraiser would do it for $250. Now, these guys always nudge me. He's not too close. He can't nudge me because he's not close enough. Because I'm not here to slam anybody, but I know that if I sent you guys a piece of paper and wrote down the top 3 lenders you don't want to see, I know what you would write down. I know exactly what you guys would write it down, and it may be 90%. And we could put them almost in order. And they don't pay the appraisers any money. Some of them I've done an incredible amount of business with. Some of them have a military loyalty. It's a hint, right? Am I right? Right? And a great loyalty. And they'll come in, no, I'm going to use so-and-so. And they pay the appraiser $250 to this day. Again, what's the greatest tip I'm going to give you all through today? I think it's this. If you have a property where you're concerned about the appraisal, you probably should be on all of them, all the prices that come down. That's fine. Ask what the appraiser is being paid. It's a statutory disclosure item required in Virginia. It is required to disclose the net appraiser's fee. But agents are so beat up by the NAR. Like, oh, that's unethical. We're not talking about commissions. We're talking about the net. So if you have, gotta find something wacky. Let's find a 2-bedroom, 1-bath cottage on a cistern well in Hamilton. That's probably not the $250 coming from the military loyalty lender that we're not naming. But we all know who I'm talking about. So you have to say, what are you being paid? And the worst part of this is her favorite drink is a venti cappuccino at Starbucks. It's $5.35 now, not a value. And I bring it to her, but it's half full. And I go, oh, yeah, I charge you $2 to go get it. So the borrower pays $5.95 for the appraisal, $7.50, $6.50, and they pay the appraiser $2.50. So, and I'm not here to bash any other appraisers. It doesn't really matter. We really become detached, right? I already told you I don't really want your private work. I'll do it as a favor to him, really, but I don't want it. I can't grow that business. And then it's very difficult. He and I are really breaking the rules in a nice way. There's a compliance ringers in here, but there are a series of lenders, which by the way would be your favorites. Agents have 2 types of favorites: favorite loan officers and favorite lenders, but in that order. I mean, they don't really care where he works, right? So then I just stay connected to these guys, and my core is very small, and it's all the top people. I just stay with them. So going back to the pay, if you don't think anybody just going into kind of rubber stamp it and do it, I heard in 1 bedroom, you can give them the comps, they can't do it wrong, don't worry about it. take the colonel who won't change lenders. But if you just want to roll the dice, these cats roll up. They've got pizza delivery on top. They don't subscribe to the MLS. They come out of Aberdeen. It's a huge company in Aberdeen. Everything's yesterday. We were declining 50 to 70 orders a day under 250. Now they're starting to come the other way. It's happening quick. And now we have desktops. Desktops are largely going away. Appraisers paid $85. You think that appraiser's not going to just pin it right where it is and be conservative? So anyway, that's more a little gloomy. I warned you this will all be quite gloomy. But the look back is the key. So appraisers can say, well, I can go back 12 months, right? We all know the Fannie quotes, right? 12 months, 2 miles. Oh, 6 months, 2 miles. Well, the comps were a lot better 6 months ago than they do today. On all FHAs, you got to include availables. So remember, the availables are a point, and everything's so statistical. I wish I had, and Josh hasn't had a PowerPoint, they can get distracting. But in the software that we use, Alamode, they have about 80% market share for appraisers nationwide. Everybody uses Alamode. Well, CoreLogic bought it. Well, now we see these indications, estimated value. You should basically can lead us the whole way. And so when we don't do that, it becomes an issue. So we tell them, we can't. I'm sorry, tennis court, I gave you 10 grand. That's all I'm going to give you. Well, it's probably because CoreLogic's going point, because they looked at 200 appraisals in 5 blocks, and they start really putting us into a corral. I feel like, I hate to do that. And we can't just push a button because we don't want to say, hey, you don't need us. Just send somebody out, drive the house, and do it automatically. Those days for now are gone, I think, because Fannie's looking that there may be an uptick in foreclosures. If there's an uptick in foreclosures, better to have somebody go in, better to have somebody to sue. I just told you my Lamada story. And we could see some of that. We haven't seen the REO pick up. I also, please, I told you.
Back when it was hot, we'd see time bumps like this. This house is worth 600.
Yeah.
But now it's worth 650 because it's so hot.
Yeah,
Are we going to see the reverse?
Yeah, that's a great question. So on the appraisal, you guys are probably pretty good on this. You see the boxes that we check up front, and those are not software completed. Although we do include that MC form. If we see that MC form, it's all software created. So we went from stable to appreciating and back, but we never really checked the box. So we go from decreasing, I'm not going back to 05, 06, 7, 8. We get to decreasing without ever checking stable. That making sense? So we were doing appreciating. That's gone now. We went from a 650 Colonial around the corner to 600, but the appraisers never checked declining. So we got there without checking it. You're not going to get away with overtime adjustments, period. And we're not yet hitting with negative time adjustments. But how did we get from my son's trying to do something that's very difficult? He lives in Bremerton on Cedar Terrace in those piggyback townhouses. He's looking at something that was 7, now it's 650. So we managed to come down 50,000, but the appraisers never checked declining because it's a real scarlet letter. We don't like to check that declining because they come back and say, where'd you get your data? But it's a great question because we were getting the reverse question. Hey, you didn't make enough time adjustments upwards. This is important on that topic. The appraiser it's not his opinion or her opinion. It's the reflection of what a typically informed buyer in the market. And I mean, literally, someone buying $1 million home in Willisville or somebody buying a condo in Herndon, you're supposed to become that person. And the habits and adjustments you make are what they would do. The other thing that I think is kind of boils it down, and you should do this with your appraisers. All of us out of property should be able to say, subject is a great deck, this has no deck. What's it worth? We should be, I bet we'd be pretty much pin the tail of the donkey with that. So you would say 8 grand, I'd say, see what stinks about sitting in the front row. You'd say 8 grand, I'd say 6 grand. Okay, I'll give you 7 grand. So each individual adjustment is what a typically informed buyer would pay for the difference between the subject as the primary and the difference to your comparable. And by the way, if your comp stinks, okay, if it's a poltergeist house, if it's stigmatized, if someone killed themselves in a house, I'm not being smart aleck, but believe me, people don't like that too much. I mean, we get this stuff out here. I still have people tell me houses are haunted out here. I mean, there's hope, but if there's a reason not to provide that information and be cooperative with the appraiser. Agents are really cooperative. They weren't for a while. So I'd call any one of you guys, not you guys, but other agents and say, hey, I want to talk to you about Maple Street. I got to get back to you. Well, then we just throw the comp away. Because it does you guys don't love hearing from the appraisers. I mean, you cooperate, but it's tedious. And sometimes the appraiser doesn't, it's a rookie or they don't know what they're doing. They'll wear you out. Tell me about the house. I mean, like just ask me your questions and we'll give it to you. But try to cooperate because we're required to have really 4 verification sources. MLS, party to the transaction, the tax record, and then something else. And something else we'll use a subscription service. Appraiser paying ridiculous amounts of money for subscriptions. I mean, I must be, you won't even believe me. I might be $2,800 a month in subscription. It includes my primary software. We subscribe to everything, MLS to whatever else. We've solved the lockbox problem. In the old days, I had a Bandolero. I'd have Supras, Centras, the old key, I mean, everything on that side. The other thing that should endear you is that I started so long ago, licensing came in 92, that I've been a realtor since 85. I've never listed or sold a car in my life. So I get a lockbox key before 92. And I was a town and country agent. I took 45 hours of class. And why I keep renewing it, I have no idea. But in Dominion Valley, up until recently, go to Dominion Valley, go to the gate, hey, I'm here to do an appraisal on Buttercup Street. But go to the visitor center and get a pass. And we quickly go, no, I'm showing something. Show them your DPOR online. They go, oh, yeah, okay, you can go in on that. So they fixed that because we were sick of driving down to the visitor center. So there are times when it helps to do it the other way. So today, it's important. Everybody wants to meet the appraiser. You know, and I know people, I know agents just like I know Scott for years. They're, oh God, Jim, God, it's you, Jim, great. And I used to sell the fact that if he's using real appraisers and he controls this list, if he's using real appraisers, it's better for you guys. You know, but I think your biggest challenge is not when you sell it and use him. That should be trouble free. It's when you're a listing agent, you don't know what's coming in. We are losing. Of course, if you've seen Loan Depot, hey, big customer for me, Quicken, biggest in the world. Loan Depot's laid off 5,000 of 7,500 people. I mean, they just disappeared off the face of the earth. But they were also pushy. So when you saw the internet lenders, Rocket, Quicken, Loan Depot, they weren't sending the best people. Now, if you get something quirky west of here, yeah, that's fine. And I do a lot of new, a lot of NB Ryan, a lot of the high-end stuff. And I'm out in Willisford is the most amazing place. It used to be like, I don't even know what that was. It's like a stump dump. It's 4,000 acre stump dump. And the roads were all gravel. But so when you do the new stuff, you get used to saying, I mean, I was literally in Brunswick. I was telling him across the way. And, you know, Brunswick now is the hottest little town in the world. I used to be like, we never crossed from Lewisville to Brunswick. But if the appraisers are active in the new, they're much more in tune with how crazy things can be. Come on, we have townhouses in Hamilton, roof decks that are 1-2. And we still do, which is probably a testimony that we're okay for now. I mean, I can't imagine we go down too much. Some people would really, we had a lot of HELOCs too. But the problem we're having today is I would still meet them. Definitely meet them. We don't always love it. If I've got a lockbox, one of you guys, you should say, yeah, I bet you at lunch. I mean, I don't really need to meet you. I always tell the agents, listen, no news is good news. If you don't hear from me, let me go pop it and we're good to go. But you guys have promised your sellers, listen, I'm going to babysit the whole process, and you probably should. But if you're going to make a stop, this is again important. You should have a little red flag I can throw. Remember that scene naked in the shower. If you don't like what you're seeing, and we're in a different world. We weren't in this world forever. If you're in day 2 before your 6-month listing expires, and somebody brings in a large lender based in California that has a stagecoach as a logo, but I don't know the names, you probably have to take that and just cross your fingers. But when you come to the door or on the phone, and you get an appraisal you don't like, don't let them in. Once they've come in and messed it up, it's so much harder to fix. Because Fannie's seen it, Freddie's seen it, FHA's seen it, VA's seen it. If it's FHA, it's stigmatized property for 6 months, period. So don't let them in. I know that takes a real amount of bravery, but when they come up, hey, I need some comps, I don't do the MLS, and they're from Catonsville. Listen, I'm going some distances today. I mean, I was in Easton the other day on a 5-minute waterfront. Sandy Spring begged me to go. I went, they charged me. I paid them big money for me, but I'm sure the Easton agent, like, where'd you come from today? You know, I have a daughter lives in Arnold. It's like, oh, they're my daughter's place in Arnold. I just kind of told the truth, but it meant them think that, you know, oh, you must be down here. Yeah. They use a Maryland accent and it worked. But stop them there and say, I don't feel comfortable doing this. Now, not going to go over well. You don't have 10 offers. Things have changed. You're not going to be able to do it. Many agents discriminated on the pre-qual sheets when they had 10 offers. They'd be like, no. So, and you can't really blame the appraisers that aren't being paid enough. But I just wish there was a savings. I mean, she gave me $5 for the coffee. I bought it back half full. She's like, I paid full fee. The borrowers are paying full fee. So be conscious of that and don't hesitate to ask about the fee. It's important, especially today. I think it will get harder before it gets better. I mean, I listen, I don't know anything, but I listen to a lot of people, and we are fairly convinced the Fed's going to keep the pedal down. If the Fed keeps the pedal down, rates go up. And so in 2021 summer, I would schedule 5 or 6, not every day, and I would do 12 every day. Because lenders would call me and say, I need this, need that, need this, need it. Well, next thing you know, I've done 10 or 12 refinances all day, every day, 5 days a week. And so that's why entire neighborhoods, like where we're standing, are all at 3%. You guys know. So I asked the sellers, I was just asking a seller in Brunswick, why are you leaving? Well, he's 33, can work remote, moved to Pittsburgh, bought a house for cash for the delta of what he made on a Ryan home there in Brunswick Crossing, and moved, and he's moving because he doesn't have a mortgage. So it's either a divorce, a move of necessity. It's not, they got in the station wagon and drove around and said, this is beautiful. So we lost that. You guys know that. I mean, there's some military relocation and some corporate relocation, but these are people who are leaving. I have a lot of people, I hear in divorces sometimes. I had one the other day. I'm moving to Charleston. I bought a home. I'm going to refi. I'm paying 5.5 or 6, but I'm going to refi when things get better. So it's not a bad pitch. I mean, but we need the rates to come back down. I'd like us all to be good enough, skilled enough, capable enough that we can make a living doing whatever's here besides shooting fish in the barrel, which is what we were doing, no matter what the rates are. But we have to equilibrate that. And we still see a lot of seller expectations that are problematic. And so I deal with it a lot, and they'll take an offer and they'll let the appraiser just recalibrate. But now the buyers are so smart. So Scott made a good point because we are in purgatory. I mean, are really any buyers that are saying, man, I'm so sick of looking, I don't care what it is, let the appraiser fix it. But I was getting deals on, I talked to them, and they said, come on, let me go. And the setup is, give me the comps. I'm not gonna bring it, you give me your comps. And then when they didn't have any, we knew where we were. And I don't work with the lenders that take this kind of work, because usually those come with FICOs that are barely making it. FHA is challenging, of course, Fannie and Freddie are up here now, our limits are like through the roof. And our limits on FHA are through the roof. But I think the key there is to meet them for sure and bring comps. I like the comps. If an appraiser gives you the hand or wants to lecture you about, CFPB, I'm not allowed. That's not really the game today. I'd be surprised. You can't live like that. He'd be pissed at me if I did that. I wouldn't be able to do it too many times. So, example, I go front row again. I go, no, I don't need your comps. I'm totally independent. Fiduciary responsibility. She said, hey, your appraiser was kind of surly. I came in 350 low on a farm the other day. It was ridiculous. The barn was like 300 yards long. The rambler was like 800 square feet. Clearly, they're going to run a farm operation. I couldn't get the number. I had to get comps from the agent. And that's not that I come to know. It just was very hard. I use all her comps. She complained to the lender that I told her that White Oak, Maryland was a dump. She told me White Oak, Maryland was a dump. I went to Key Junior High in White Oak, Maryland. I said, I went to Key. Yeah, I lived in Hillendale. She said, that place is a dump. So she told the lender. Now, I'm only using that as an example that when there's a problem, and it could be anything, come late, key broke off the lock. I could tell you a story so all of you fell asleep in here. Use the bathroom, not checking the waters on. I mean, I've had guys on the road, muddy feet in the new home on the final inspection. So much for the white carpet. Stepping dog crap in the back from their dog, and it comes inside. And of course, if it's low, if it hits a number, no problem. We'll clean it up. Everything's fine. But I do think it's important to squeeze them, because if they're getting full feet, you've done their job. If you're not letting a bozo in the house, and then you shouldn't lean on it. He should only be using real people that they fully pay. By the way, he's going to be fully paid. We don't care if they use any receipt, he's got to pay full. Even at $550, I mean, it's not that you're losing money on every deal, making it up in value, but it's not a get-rich-quick scheme unless there's a lot of volume. I mean, we've laid people off recently. Our chat about. We've laid people off. I mean, my primary assistant's been with me 25 years. She's probably better than I am. My secondary is 12. So, I mean, I got people that stay. You got to pay them. They don't want to take pay cuts, but it's super challenging. We don't discriminate against the agent quality. I mean, I can look the agents up. When we go to Market Track, you guys have been on the market. I can't go on without subscribing. Market Track software is really incredible. You go on there and see your volume, your pending volume. If it's him, I can see his primary agents, his feeder agents, what they did. It's an incredible software. I don't subscribe to many people he and I know do, and I use it, but it's a couple G's a month. So we don't discriminate on that. I get agents, if it's an agent's new agent, it's fine. The idea of sending me, I don't need the help. But I think if you guys are, when you're coming, you're paying attention, you're coming to learn something, you're responding to this, it's a different, I'm not ragging on agents because I'm a fellow agent myself. I'm not ragging on agents, but I see people that are really frustrated with not being able to be a member of the homeowner association or the board member and just selling homes like popcorn. So it's frustrating. Now you have to have an angle and a niche that you can work. But the relationship with the appraiser starts with the fee. I know I sound super greedy on that, but it's got to be on the fee. Look at that appraisal and analyze your columns. Look at the adjustments. If you don't like the appraisal, first step, are they not using a comp you should have used? That's first step, right? So you have two things on appraisal. They pick, let's use more, you gotta use 3 base, but you should use more. You first have to say, should you be using something else? And then you have to argue why they shouldn't be using one, because we gotta make room. Appraiser uses 3. We said they should have used this. You got to look at the three and say, maybe it's time. Maybe it's the poltergeist house, whatever. Swap that out. So you got two arguments to make. Because when you send these appeals over, we get these appeals. We're not getting them like we were because we don't have the escalations. And the escalations, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, weren't the escalations just them sick of being in the car and making 10 offers? Everybody was sick of it. What do they want? It's 100. That's just fine. And so we struggled with that because Scott's point at the time, we weren't making time adjustments. And Fannie tolerated a lot of time adjustments. But now they're not requiring negative time adjustments, and it's quite the mystery how we got from here to here without making negative time adjustments. There were negative time adjustments. Oh my God, 07, 08, early 09, absolutely. The further we went backwards, maybe by necessity, the more we had to make adjustments. Loudon is pretty good. I mean, I was out here day before yesterday working on stuff. And the properties seem to be selling. Now they're probably selling for, this is colonial stuff that I was working on, but probably $725 8 months ago, and the thing was selling for $675. That about right? Do you guys think it's 50% pop in that market? Or not an adjustment, but that seems to be the delta that we've seen from the best of the market. Part of that might have been escalation today, but we never made negative time adjustments. The discrimination against VA and FHA is pretty real. It's FHA, we're doing a second home inspection. The thing that frustrates me there, I don't get it too much here, but you do get it like Sterling and Maromsco, Dale City, FHA, and it's listed by an agent. I guess I'm picking on them. And I get there and it needs paint and the smoke detector is down. I mean, come on, if you're going to do an FHA, you know the FHA appraiser is going to come in there. And FHA is really picky on post reviews. So you come in there and you say, oh, no, Scott, so I didn't see that paint. But FHA randomly will send somebody behind you that's a review, and they'll say, I get letters all the time. I had a guy knock a house down, and they said, well, you said it wasn't knocked down. It wasn't when I did it, but he knocked it down. Because he kind of misrepresented that he was going to own the home. It was a first-time home buyer. Yeah. But the FHA is much more stringent because the loan limits are so high that you, and of course, you got MIP, the insurance is expensive. But on the FHA, you try to remember certain things. You can go online. I could easily send it to him, the checklist. But so many things we check that the water's got to be on, the electric's got to be on, paint's a big issue, especially on a house built prior to 1976. So any of your old stuff behind us, Herndon, Sterling. And VA is really picky. Of course, the VA appraisers are completely independent. They don't answer to him. They don't answer to anybody. So remember, when a VA appraiser, I have agents tell me all kinds of stuff. And I don't mind, but sometimes they push. And if they push, you got 25 days to turn the appraisal in. That's it. There's no contingency. You can't make it contingent on something less, because you can't compel the appraiser to do it any other way. So I don't ask them to kiss my ring on VAs, but I'm not answering anybody. Of course, pays very well. And VA's popular because we have a big military contingency of people. Then those pickiness is equivalent to the FHA. They should have required, when FHA went to this post-out, Frank, that the home inspection was provided to the appraiser and required on an FHA. Of course, home inspections went away, radon went away, everything went away, and now they're coming back. So, I mean, you guys, I don't think they're all the way back. I don't know how the home inspectors made it, because I know a guy named Richard Hockenberry, he's a great guy, and he was just basically out. There's no more home inspections. So, and I do see them moving a little quicker now, and I see this magical software they use. They can kind of like come in, do it, and get it to you, where before it seemed like it took a little longer, but they do seem to still spend quite a bit of time in the house. The only thing we get there is under VPOA, under anything disclosure. I'm working on a marine clay problem in the Riverside, Fort Hunt Road, not in your immediate turf here, but way down there on the bottom, a lot of marine clay, north of the Mount Vernon mansion. We didn't know, because they paneled over the cracks where they put those injector holes. We didn't know, so everybody's getting sued, including me. But I mean, we didn't know. I put paneling, but the paneling wasn't up, so maybe the agent didn't know either. But it was a VA, and I didn't know because the house is like going this way. So somebody will fix it. It'll get fixed eventually. Now, I guess we don't have to go to classes anymore, so we can do it online like you guys can. But I can remember all the horror stories. Oh, you're worried about this, worried about that. I don't think the appraiser community is totally worried about it, but it's just feeding into the system. We get such an immediate response. So when we submit to him through the software owned by CoreLogic, who owns your MLS, they check everything. They cross-check everything. The settlement dates, the photos, everything is cross-checked. So it's just hard to say. In the old days, they'd say, hey, you know what? Scott's a good guy. He has a really good guy. He did a great job. I think they're going to kiss us on the cheek. Well, I mean, it's an art instead of a science at the end. It's not a mean, median, or mode. But it's very hard to do it when there's a reason why not to do it. Now, I may just say that are sharp, maybe they heard me talk. They'll say, what is your indication? Because it gives us an indicated value. We don't use it ever. I don't want to use it because I don't want to go and say, where'd you get the value? Well, I don't know. I just picked that one off there. But we do see it. And remember, nothing's a problem until somebody's unhappy with the value and then they foreclose. That's when the trouble hits the road. I mean, I was in court so many times why they were going after the appraiser because we're the lowest guy on the totem pole. It's fine to make the money, but we're not making the big money. The other curse that I think is really true that we can't blame any of us, but the NAR had the MLS. They had it. In my early days, I don't remember we got any real old timers around, but we used to have Garand and 4321. These were like $6.95 to list the house or 4321 depending on how quick it sold as a commission rate. Now I see these listings for 2%. And I'm thinking, I wouldn't even bother with this for 2%. I mean, these are pretty expensive properties or moderate properties. That was a mistake, especially in land, especially in super jumbo. I mean, I know the commission goes up when the price is up, but that was the agents responding to pressures from some of the lower budget. And I'm well aware of the Redfin model. It works really well in some of these sophisticated markets. And I think they have a machine that works for especially young people, millennials. But the agent's effort with us, when we call to verify, they didn't make a lot of money on those deals. And so I'm sure we would all agree, normally hands up, 2% is not enough to sell a $600,000 house on each side, in my opinion. By the way, there's where the friction comes when we talk about the appraiser fee. Because, oh no, you can't talk about what the commission was. But there are some players out here that are taking 3 on their side and paying out less. And you know what that's found out? I'm doing agent commentary. They find that out at the settlement table. I mean, that's a sad day. I've even had a 1-3. That's amazing. And they wanted to strangle those listing agents when they got there. Of course, perfectly lawful inside. I did have a chat with spreading, not bad news, but true news, but I was chatting with someone from the title company in Alexandria yesterday, and they were 30 or 40 a week, and they closed 1 yesterday. So any of the parallel industries is affected. You don't have to look very far. You can look in your own business, but everything's very public. There's no secrets. I mean, he's very lookable. Once we had NMLS, you can look up. I have people call me and they say, well, I closed, $90 million last month. Well, I don't see that there. So that came with NMLS, became very, very public. The appraisers, not so much. I think there'll be a shrinkage of the appraisers because for me, what else am I going to go do at this point? I mean, I'll just ride this out and do what I can do in the meantime. I'm not going to augment it with private. That's the only way an appraiser can really change things. No one else just can't change what they do. In the HELOC business, we'll see. I'm not so sure how long we're getting some pressure on HELOCs now. It'll take a lot of that, but where they previously would do it Zillow or automated, now they want a full appraisal. They don't want a desktop, they want a full appraisal. But I think that the traffic and sales are decent. We can still find comps, but on the West End, if anybody works at West End, if it's unique or rural or ag in any way, that's challenging. Middleburg proper is challenging. My son's married to a girl whose dad owns a Little River Inn right there in Albany. So I hit that. I go west, and I'll get them off the Zula Road, Falky or Top, just kind of Middleburg light. And it's tough for us to find. And I don't see, when I drive down a cool road, St. Louis Road, some of these roads, I'm like, I did that. I might be thinking I did that in 1990, with a smokehouse and whatever. I don't see the sales in the big end. That doesn't seem to be like the Sheridan bands and those guys. They have them on the pictures when you walk, but we're not seeing as many of those sales. It does seem to die off at about 2 million. We see that. And there's a lot of big properties that sell way west on a 10-acre lot, and the comps are hard to find. And they have a cool house and a wine cellar and a great pool and all kinds of great things, but it's much more work. Now we try to charge for them, but there again, if you anticipate, this is again fancy talk. The appraiser approaches it under the theory of substitution. We're going to find the 3 most recent like sales that are typically informed buyer we compare to this property. Pull that. But it's sometimes hard to do that when you're like, yeah, but it's sold here. I'm going to pull here. Like we never pull to the value, because if you do, you get caught pulling to the value and you miss. Even if we look at 10 and throw a few away, but agents will often, especially in the old days, hey, there's a couple like, yeah, those are in McLean. Those are across 7. yeah, I know. They're good. And then it comes with, oh, we had 10 offers. Or hey, the guy that bought is a sheik. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with all this. Tell them to make up the difference. So pull as if you are a buyer. It's very hard because you're representing your people. So you get prejudiced by your representation. Hey, these are nice people, and they're moving to Iowa, and I'm going to help them out. And it sold quick, and that's got to be what it's worth. Obviously, what it sells for is not necessarily what it's worth because we don't have cash. There is some cash. I don't have any, but I mean, it is amazing. I don't buy a house, they write a check. but it's very small. We don't discriminate against those, but as I'm running my own self, but we do make adjustment for seller concessions, and seller concessions were gone, and now they're running back. So, and we also will adjust for cash if there's no realtor commission. Those commissions are high, even at 4% or 5%.
That's a great point. Now we're seeing a lot more of the seller concessions coming in.
Back.
That's not a dollar for dollar, right? Or how does
Well,
that affect
it's a
the-
dollar for dollar reporting. We were at zero, of course, but prior to that, in a more normal market, we were 0.5 to 3% of the overall transaction. Fannie would tolerate that. Some appraisers are running a dollar for dollar right now because we don't have the data to develop what typical is because it just came back. So as long as it's 10 grand, 7 grand, 8 grand on a $500,000 sale, we'll probably go close to dollar for dollar. But if it's typical, no adjustment. It's not a negative. It's only when somebody said, hey, we'll sell the house for $650 and I'm going to give you 40,000 concessions. We still see them. Hey, the tractor conveys. I mean, we see them. Oh, it's a Kubota. How much is it? It's 80,000. So, and we still see addendums on big stuff where they convey a bunch of crap and they don't remember the addendum. You know how that goes. I mean, it's conveying the barn and the shed and the tools.
So never send me that addendum.
Yeah.
I don't want
Exactly.
to. Don't send that.
Exactly. Well, that usually pops up at settlement and then somebody gets a hold of it and becomes a problem. It's not somebody trying to be frauds. It's much more an ag where we have a big property to mow. But seller concessions are coming back and lots of cancellations. I don't know. We've never had more cancellations, which stinks for you guys because you do 90% of the work and never mind. We're going to start from scratch. I don't know whether they're canceling because they got cold feet. I don't know whether they're canceling home inspection problems, but we do see a lot of that. The pre-home inspections, I see a lot of pre-home inspections because they catch things and then you can provide it. The appraisals used to be very transportable. People would say, oh, I had an appraisal done in this year. It was very transportable. If you have a luxury property and you do a private appraisal, it's still transportable at about 5 lenders, all of which you guys can name. And that's because it can be done, but it's not kosher and it's not supposed to be, but it was sure great before because you say, look, this appraiser didn't take this, take it over to your lender and they'll take it. And those days ended because an individual cannot obtain an appraisal for the back funded or insured transaction. Dodd-Frank may have done some good things, I don't know. It put the appraiser back on their heels because of the AMC. I'm sure you guys are getting a million things in the mail or visits. Hey, lender. You got to ask them if you're going to engage them for whatever reason, whether you're going to put them in your rotation, which we don't want to do, or you're going to entertain them on a deal. You got to know what they pay the appraiser. I'm not sure you're going to say those important things, rates. I get it, but it's critical. I'm not here playing the appraiser's fiddle, but it's a lot of work. I mean, I don't think we're making a ton of money at $550 or $600.
But one of the big things, I know you brought up the commission or the fee a lot. I think one of the big things of lenders that aren't paying market rate for appraisers is that you're not getting the quality. That's the biggest thing. It's not about making appraisers making a bunch of money in retirement.
What's market rate?
It depends on the property. 600, like we charge 545, but anywhere from 500 to 650 is probably market.
And they're paying what? Some of the other lenders, what are they paying?
$250.
They're charging 550
Charging the buyer.
The appraiser?
your transaction. So when
Right.
you're dealing with a lender or with me, what you're doing is you're handing the keys over to me when you get a ratified contract. You're handing over your paycheck, and with your family, you're handing over the keys to this family, and in 2 weeks or 4 weeks, I'm handing it back to you. That's kind of how it works. When you do that, you have to trust that everybody that I have on my team, whether it's Josh, Ashley, Mel, Rochelle, or whoever, that they're doing a great job, and that includes the gym.
For sure.
Got to make sure that we're working with people that we know do a great job. And if I'm paying a guy $250 for a $550 job, he's probably not a quality guy. That's the biggest thing about the fee.
I'll speak to the appraisals. So we all knew that appraisal costs $450 and Dodd. You call and say, what do you pay the appraiser on this? But we know a lot of people don't have this company. They don't have MLS keys. You don't really care as long as it's in the number. I mean, I'm down with it, right? You don't really care. The MC be 250, appraiser be 50. If you've got a cookie cutter property and you can guide that appraiser, it's cattle. If you put that cowboy in the chute with a rodeo cowboy, who cares? Put him in there. So I'm not saying go do it. If you're an Army colonel going to that lender that we're not referring to, and you appraisal getting paid 250, if you're only offering your 90 days into a 120 listing, take it. But put that appraiser in a box. And it's easy to do. Now, the CMA component on the software, your inbox software, is pretty good. I like when the agents put it in there and they'll say, Dak, whatever you do, 8 to 12, and hey, commission's commission. You don't want to see it blow up after he did a great job. You happy about it, what they appraise for, because it all goes through the same system. Lenders and where they see the appraisals. So remember seeing Nathan in the shower. If an appraisal's been done, they saw it. The underwriter saw it, got somebody that he thinks a horse is patoot, don't let him in. Now I know, I'm looking at all the faces here, I think all of you can do it. Say, I'm not comfortable, don't come in. They don't do the appraisal. So what? They do the appraisal, stop them. Once they come in and do it, I have people calling, hey, I need one, and they have all the disclosures. My addendums are just, I have Dragon. I talk to my computer, it goes, blah, 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 because I have to go overboard so that when that reader, an underwriter, is looking at it, or Fannie, they're going, that one I was bitching about it with Fannie, the 1 bedroom, 1 bath by the quarter deck, I just put it, so what, 150? Maybe.
Honestly, this market that we just came from, if I was working with a listing, I told my sellers, we have to be very, keep in mind who the lender is, because not all lenders are equal. So you may get a beautiful contract that $300,000 over asking, but let's look at the lender, because at the end of the day, we need to get to settle.
Right. Now I watched this, that's a great point, and correct me if I'm wrong, I started to see, even at the end of the market, they weren't taking the highest ones.
No,
they would take
almost the highest funds.
And I do think a lender matters.
You
have to have a real lender, you have to have a real loan officer, then you have to have a real lender, and they have to pay the appraiser for it. And I'm not here, listen, as I got to be geezing, I'm not here to promote anybody, but.
Oh my gosh, I had a situation where it was crazy. The house went for like, I don't know, 200,000 over asking in Cascades. Came in with a conventional, 30% down, blah, 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 blah. The appraiser, he goes up into the primary bedroom and he pulls the attic down, and I'm like, why are you putting that attic? I've never seen an appraiser go into the attic. He goes, well, this is a VA loan, we're required. I'm a VA appraiser. I started to cry.
Right, sure.
And he said, don't worry, ma'am, I'm gonna take care of you, I said, oh my God.
Well,
but it was a bait and switch, because, and I understand the vets, and I totally get all that. But to have a well-known lender pull that, it's like.
Well, what about the financing? It's got to be checked on there.
Yeah.
Now, as you say, two things I channel there. Cash offers, where here comes the appraiser and a loan, because that's the basis where you get ahead of everybody, right? Yeah. We sell a lot. And remember on VA, don't appeal a VA appraisal. So if you ever have a low VA appraisal, you might as well. Go ahead if you want. I've never seen one overturned as long as I've been doing it. You guys may have had one a year, and many of you, the median age of a VA appraiser is in their mid-60s. The median age of an appraiser, according to the Appraisal Institute, is high 50s. Yeah. By the way, none of you can become an appraiser. I have 4 kids, 3 daughters and a son, and I remember telling most of my son, but I said, I don't know what you guys are going to do in life, but I know what you're not going to do. And I'm very girl power friendly, really girl power friendly, but I think for women in particular, these properties, when you're out, it's a challenge. A lot of times I'll be in a place where I don't know whether I lock myself in with somebody or out. And appraisals are challenging. Not here. This is a great spot. But we do them all over the place. In fact, I go to many places where nobody really wants to go. And we'll go do stuff that letter can't find anybody to do. But the point you're making is excellent, because VA is very, but if you have a VA, in the olden days, way back, 90, 91, agents would put on no FHA or VA contracts. Yeah. All the time on townhouses. They didn't want them. Because I just find, I'm cautioning myself, because I know where I'm going with these things, and I want to be sure that I'm on tape, for Christ's sake. But I go to a house, and I go, what's up? Bay window, Pulte Tannis. They didn't paint those very well, so they're always wrong. You guys have seen them 100 times. And I go up, I go, what's up? Oh, yeah, it's fixed. But I push my fingers, like masking tape and paint it. And I'll say to them, I don't mind if you're stupid, but I might even think I'm stupid. I'm just here to see if you painted the thing, that's all. But why didn't the listing agent, this is something channeling my own, what you said, why would a selling agent's buyer pay for a reinspection of an FHA when the listing agent wasn't smart enough to set the house up in the first place, right? So think about what I just said. Oh, geez, you guys are gonna think I'm a fool. Left not there, sorry. In Myersville, I was, there's a lot of new construction, I did a lot of Horton and Point of Rocks, but I'm like, that's $200. Now, should the buyer pay that? It's gonna go on their side, the lender says $200, no problem, I'm not driving up, that's trip fee, I'm all the way up there. So just be conscious, that's not what our big problem is today, by far, not our problem, but that's an issue where you should watch it. I think all of this, if I made a bunch of mistakes, done things stupid, probably, but I'm a lot smarter than low. You get 12 offers, some were even higher.
25 offers.
We're gonna,
And that's why when I, and like I said, VA.
we're gonna talk about this market.
You waived
You're telling
everything
stories.
first, but with the VA, you can't waive.
You can't waive, and I see it all the time.
So, but everything was waived, so what does that mean when now?
Well, your contracts, that's a null and void contract. I mean, I see them waive it, and I also see them cut the response, the contingencies are shorter than the appraisal term. It's set by VA. But your seller didn't know that you were accepting the terms of the VA offer. If it's not got the financing, go to the VA.
There's no.
But they can change it at the end, they don't qualify, I mean, money down, they lost the cycle.
It appraised.
Yeah, well, that's right, as long as it appraises, we're in good shape. We will look back, I think, on the market we came through when you're 90 years old and rocky.
Sellers, because they're still, I mean,
Listen,
to price a house now is like, how do you price this? Because the sellers are already like.
I see it all the time, I do it all the time, and it's not me talking, it's me repeating what I hear. Agents' biggest struggle, but they don't get it. The Willisford, they don't, I had a guy had $400,000 pool in his backyard, it looked like something from Disney World. I called the LO, his friend, and said, what does he do for a living? I want that job. But they just can't. They talk about cost and the upgrades and what I put in. I'm a wine cellar. I don't even drink wine. I didn't know $5 wine, $500 wine. I missed, passed me by.
Well, here's a question, probably maybe for more of the listening audience. Why not get an appraisal, independent appraisal up front as part of the package with your sellers? I don't say, right.
Hey, we're not
Justifying
gonna
my price, and then when the homeowner says, no, I created my baby in that bathtub. This house
Of course.
is an extra $250,000. They're so emotionally tied to it.
Sure.
It's a terrible.
I'm taking the bathtub with me. That's it.
Weeks ago. It's on the market 30 days, it's totally unheard of. I put that same house on the market in the spring, $750 in Countryside, it was $925. $750, and now here we are, basically same house in Cascade.
This, a couple
So what I
of
had to do with this guy is I actually had to take him through with my laptop and show him, do you see this house? It has.
So a couple of fast things that came up with, I'll try to remember them all. One is showing times. This property is under contract. Do you still wish to show it? And we'll check it, we'll put appraisal. For some reason, we can buy a range, not a 15-minute showing, which of course is going now. We'll take 3 hours. I'll put 1 to 4. When it goes to you guys, it says 1. It's a glitch in the thing. So you're supposed to be here at 1. So when we use showing times, of course, preface the listing date. Remember, we try to take as much range as we can. And many times I'll show up and they'll say, hey, this is ridiculous. You're supposed to be here at 1 o'clock. And then I'll show, we always put it in our file to put it in there. The change in that has been, back to your point about offers, it's just so incredible how quickly it changed. But there's 2 data sets that are pretty good for this purpose to convince that's an incredible number. So you might say, hey, in your days in the market have gone from 7 to 40 in the last whatever we listed and hope they come to their senses during. And then it's a seller of necessity. I don't think anybody's saying, I think I'll take a wing at this. They're all going. I ask every one of them when I walk in, where are you guys going? They're going places. And the ones that are mostly motivated have owned it for a long time, or they're going to something they own. Because I own a second home, I'm moving there. I have a home in Georgia. And then they don't care, because most people are not. When life goes on, you might just say, forget it. So that data point, we use that a lot. If you look at, a lot of times the appraiser, because of that software, they'll have the histogram, bar graph. It looks like someone's trying to get an A on paper that they really didn't know what they were doing. Thicker the appraisal, the less it's going to be questioned. We're sticking those in there. And so anybody reads it, really. But DLA, SLA, DOM is incredible information. And number of sales and whatnot. But if you go to your main, we call it an update. I was so old, I had one called PRC, and we print like a thermograph every morning. We run the whole market. The stats are pretty obvious. And Bright is an incredibly powerful tool to really kind of prove your point. Your point's gonna get proven anyway. I don't know how many agents should be taking the number up here, because it probably gets stigmatized. As you know, DOM rides all the way through. Can't change brokers anymore. In the old days, they just delete the listing, poof, we start fresh, brand new listing. But we're seeing it in rentals. I mean, I'm watching rentals go on the 650, 700 crowd right here, go from 4,500 to 4,200 to 3,500 rentals. And rental, I just looked at a rental on Connor's Place. O'Connor's Place, just this morning, and it's been on the market for 84 days. And it went from 4,500 to 4,200. Now rentals don't matter, and they were paying the agent. But these agents, you should see what these agents, $50, and there's nothing you can do. And I don't know what the trend is, but there certainly is a lack of enforcement trend. So I'm not suggesting any of you be shady, but I mean, those are the opinions are advisory opinions. I'm thinking, great, now we got to deal with that. You know, so I mean, I believe it or not, I go to Baldwin. Baldwin's a really tough place to go. Sandy Springs has been a customer of mine since '85. They've been in business 150 years. A great little bank in Albany, Maryland. They can't get anyone to go to Baltimore. And I'm like, I am not going to go to Baltimore and barely make it out alive, and then have somebody complain. So we, you know, kind of pick and choose, which isn't that fair either. But based on sales price, so we're not in some place where there's razor wire on the roof. Again, fortunately, we're in a market here that I don't think that's going to come our way. And now, I mean, what's the cheapest condo we could buy in Loudoun County? I have a number in my mind, 187, 190, is that about right? Maybe, under 200, maybe? I mean, you realize where we are, we're just, I don't know what the median price is in Loudoun, it's very high. I mean, it's like 705, it's some really high number. So those trends aren't good because people, the government agents have nothing to do. I don't think the boards are functioning. I hope nobody has had a complaint in their previous life. But I mean, if you look at the little newsletter, all you get in a day, there's nothing that you can do that gets you more. I don't think anyone's at the risk of losing a license. I read it, they don't take the license for that. And of course, doesn't mean the appraisers, for example, they want to wham bam get in and be done. So the relationship between the agent and the appraiser is pretty good. I couldn't do it for 250. I'd want to wham bam on myself. So I think for 250, I hit a true old timer. I'm like double digit license numbers. I mean, I see guys that are licensed 22,000. I'm licensed 57. I'm scratching my head. Honestly, our turn of the day to become a billing event. I mean, they're turning it in. We see a lot of agents turning the day on things in a day or two after they go in. So it's come way down. And so there was a new build out here. And I thought this thing should be 850. And I was afraid to go back and bid it because I just wanted the deal. Because this new construction, I can do it, but it should have paid 850. We'll have to cancel, get somebody else. So even good, these are regular fee. They put it through their software, came out to 550. It doesn't even upgrade 550. I could done it, I got it. Construction perm, for those of you that are selling anything that's current, I think that's softening quite a bit, but those appraisals are complex. Buy the land for 800,000, build a 1.9 house on it, on all blueprints, and they want to pay 850. So a lot of times appraisals. So beware on the everything I'm telling you, hey, 550, 600. You get a big house, something up here on the water. I mean, my God, they still in Los Island, the townhouses that are on the water. They're challenging because there's only like 18 of the damn things. They gotta pay the appraiser real money. And the wealth services people, which is going outside of our sponsor here today, so to speak. But if somebody's loaded and they're with some of the banks we supposedly hate and they're in wealth, at least they'll pay the appraiser. And those people are very hard to wedge out of that outside. At least they pay the appraiser full fee, and you're going to get an old timer. I'm going to hand it out to you guys. You can send me a quick text on a low appraisal question, subcommittee.gov, government website. You can see where they're based. You can see how many complaints they've had. Same thing with you guys on the RASC. Don't hesitate to look at that. So I'm not looking to pick on Scott and I was rather on this company out of Aberdeen that comes over here a lot. But if you see somebody that's based in Hartford County, Maryland, and they're coming in here, that certainly is one click, their name on ASC.gov. If they've had 10 complaints to the board since 05, impossible to become a trader, it's impossible to become an appraiser. It really is. I'm not going to do that real quick just for fun. But I go in with them all the time. Like, what's that? Geothermal? Like, that's oil. Smell it. They smell oil, and I'm still working with the guy. So trainees can be used. So when you would call me and say, hey, I got a little appraiser, I'm immediately looking for the license number, where they're based, and I go to ASC.gov. It requires 2 years. It's 6 years. And if I have to take him everywhere I go, what does he get paid? At $550, let alone $250. So again, I got kids. I'm like, no way, I'm not doing this. So it's very hard to become. So we created a shortage. And not long ago, we're talking about desktop, hybrids, automated, no-goes, all because of COVID, and the shrinking appraiser base. Because West Virginia is a self-funding state. So every fee that comes from appraisers and fees has to pay the whole budget of their board. It's like $1,400 a year now. No one's gonna, I used to be licensed in West Virginia for the new builders that were right over the border here in Jefferson, Berkeley County. So there is a shortage. So for a while, you guys do want to tolerate the appraisers that we've got. But I think it starts with real lenders on either side, demanding that they get paid or do the work for the appraiser. Put him in a box, feed him into the chute. Because the first thing you can write back is saying, there's nothing wrong with it, selling it or listening to being an advocate. Perfectly permissible. It's not permissible for him to do it. He's not even allowed to have contact. Now, would he might text me or email me? I don't know. Maybe. It's not supposed to be. But I get questions like, this is the second appraisal. This is true, recent. Loan officer, second appraisal, and the woman is deaf. She was all pissed off that the appraiser didn't get that message because it took a little while to figure it out. So I get there, I press the doorbell lights, click, 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 click on the doorbell, and I already been tipped off. But if I had not known that, I wouldn't have gotten that from the portal that comes to us. So I think for the boutique lenders, it's important that they give good service as they're going to send out the old timers. I don't want everybody to discriminate by license, because I run into some agents that are pretty fresh and they're pretty sharp, particularly if they're had a career in corporate world for a couple of years and just hated it. I think they're pretty sharp. I run into a lot of agents that I don't think they know anything of what they're doing, but I don't care. And they say crazy things, that's fine. I'm just looking to get in and out of the thing as quick as possible. And I always take their stuff, even if I don't need it. I always take it. Because I've had many things go south where I said, well, they didn't provide me these counts. Well, I have. Because, I mean, if you get a regular cookie cutter, most of what we do is pretty cookie cutter. And we still, despite the market being way down, we still have data points. The comps are data clusters, right? But in some of our markets, maybe we're ahead of it, we'll see. I have one sale recently, and then I got to do a look back. Anything forward or look, remember in a relocation, you're looking forward. By the way, relocation is coming back. I got 2 relocation orders last week, and we never got them before. You know why? Because the house is sold in 5 seconds. So they relocate the person, because it's always federal, almost exclusively federal. But look back is challenging when there's not a lot of data. We still have data. I hope the market stays good enough. I mean, it can't take the rates up too much higher. Again, the glamour speech, no one needs it for this one, but Fed's going to probably apply so much pressure to trying to get inflation. They really put a lot of pressure on the housing market. Rates slide over 7. And then they realize they did it. And then they got to turn this thing around and go right back where we were, hoping that we don't bring inflation back or fail to kill it. And no politics at all. I don't even do it anymore at all. But that said, the Republican administration comes in for a midterm. They don't want to create a win for them. So there's not a lot of incentive to squeeze the Fed. And the Fed's become very autonomous. I wish the Fed wasn't so old, because I think this interest rate thing, you can't see these changes. Nobody thinks you can go from here to here and be very good. And if I had a house that I was in that was too big, my electric bill was $800 a month, all the kids moved out, and I lived out here west, I'm not going to sell it and go get a 6.5% mortgage. I'm not going to probably do it. This is why our rental market is so far up. And even in the rental, I was doing a rental analysis here just before I came over here this morning, and they were like, this is 650 houses, and you got them at 3,200. I can't believe the commissions. 550. If you could get half a month's, I'm sure none of you are really making any money on rentals. Half a month's used to be a full month years ago. Now it's half. That was a quarter. This is $550 for a $4,200 a month lease, which was way too high. But the reason it's up is the seller says, I can't sell it for that. Not because they have a home equity loan they put it here, but because they just don't think that's good. Because everybody's conditioned. Okay. Buyers, you guys know this, buyers and sellers all have an idea of what it is. When you start driving around, you talk to them about what to buy. They're like, how things should be 700. The seller's up here. Remember the article, the appraiser cartoon where the appraiser looks at it like a shack. The agent looks like a regular house, and the buyer looks at it like a mansion or seller. That's what we're seeing. So it is a transition, and purgatory is a great. We're on a diet headed from 32 ways to 44 ways. It's not too much fun. But the rental market is way up, and the rental days on the market is sky high. And you guys don't do that. I don't know how anybody does rentals. I mean, it's a great way to make a marriage. And we have a lot of professional owners here. lots of professional owners. Property managers, multiple homes owned. Zillow's in our market owning big time. BlackRock's in our market big time. Not so much here. Get into Herndon, some of the more modest homes, you'll have corporate owners all over the place. Not VRBO, but corporate rental owners. And we don't know how long they'll stay in the market. But this one is 4270, and I spoke to the agent, 84 days on the market. This is probably worth 3,500, 3,200, and no washer dryer. And I told her, I called her because I was doing a washer dryer. You guys have a different opinion, but go down to Best Buy and buy the cheapest Samsung one. Worried about taking the house back. But 4270 from 45, and the rentals in 6 months are up from 1 to 40, and the days on the market, which means it's probably a precursor to DOM and indications on the sales side, probably. But I don't want to be a pretend economist. We do get used to trends, and what I say here is just a regurgitation of what I hear. And I don't find sellers in a bad mood at this point, even though they gleefully admit, I wished I'd sold it before. And I said, why didn't you? Aunt Susie wasn't dead yet. I hadn't had a place. There's always indicators, and then they want new construction in Jacksonville. I don't see that. And our new construction, again, I'm taking gloomy things on this. Our new construction is a challenge. So I've been with NVR since 85. And B. Ryan, they built the super greatest in Willisford. They built Simply Ryan, that's their low end. They are seeing a lot of cancellations because you people came in FHA. And the pain is really coming in the agency money, not as much the jumbo money. And these people don't qualify. So then they take the house, and it's a spec, and then they give it away. And then they come to us and they go, well, you can't sell that for $480 when you got the new. And so we're starting to see a problem there because there's a lot of cancellations. And the agents aren't happy either because they made a commission. Albeit, have you seen NB Ryan's commission to an incoming agent lately? 3,000 base, and it's just not very much. You don't do anything. In fact, your buyer could walk in and hand a card and you can do a thing. But they really trimmed that back. So new construction, if it wasn't so prevalent, look at Brambleton. I mean, that's basically if you take 5 and under houses, that's the whole market. I mean, it's all these new things that we saw, which was helping us. Another great question they always ask, what about crisscross? We have a 20-year-old nice colonial, and they want to use new home sales. We get that a lot when they ask questions. And they made a very good point. Hey, these people, there's nothing to buy. They had to buy this, and they wanted to buy new, and they couldn't, so they just paid this for the one that was a resale. In the old days, but it had blinds and paint and an invisible fence and a deck and a patio. The other one of those patios, good God, I just came out of one this week, and I said, that's a nice fire pit. It was nice, $25,000. This boulder wall was $895 a boulder at 10 boulders. I think we were at $650. It was nice. And some of the outdoors ones are like Disney World. You see a lot of those. That guy on the pool was ridiculous. But there's some not so great, some of the roads that get out here. Some of these big colonials are on lots. It looks like somebody bought a farm and cut them up, and then they buy the house and have a deck and not much else, and they still want this. But they're not able to sell because the buyers aren't. There's nowhere to quote Alan Greenspan. There's no irrational exuberance anymore. You guys know. You come in, and the other thing we don't deal with it much anymore. But we had this dual agency going on quite a bit, and I had tons of cases before the board where the agent did kind of kept it a secret, whispered it out. Ooh, a buyer came. It never was listed, and also abuse of the coming soon. The board's all over their coming soon abuse, but we don't have that same market anymore. But in those days, coming soon would be like leaned up against the garage, but not yet installed. And God, we got to deal with this so many times. And they'd come to us and ask if we were in cahoots with the agent, did we cooperate, did the lender know? Because it was easy to sell because people were, as soon as the neighbors knew, they never went in the yard, and then they got both sides of the deal. I think commissions will go up it needs to go up, and someone's got to be brave, and all of our low-end players have to go. Low Depot, Quicken, and Rocket are low-end players. No commission salespeople. They're all low-end, and they're not boutique. So from a appraisal lender side, we're seeing the non-boutiques go away. And again, I can name the top 5 in 2 ways. Top 5 great lender, top 10, 15 loan officers, but also the great companies. They're all pay everybody full. They deal fair. They pay the loan officers good money. You never get ripped off. It's the ones where you guys go, that's good. I got that. That's the pre-qual letter I do want. But so many when we were in that kind of internet world. And then the young buyers, they didn't care. And then it's not called good faith anymore, but that's how old I am. They go, oh, wow, I got 2 good faith estimates, and this was, the title fee was $50 cheaper. You can't do that anymore. That's another thing will come in Arizona. I just went to a thing at HUD. Arizona's got $99 roving settlements, non-attorney supervised. And they say it's coming to the East Coast of Virginia soon. where you won't have to have, our fees are too high. The title company fees are too high. The other thing I'm running into is I have an appraiser, or a realtor that's a partner in a title company, which is lawful. And instead of distributions, now they're getting cash calls. No, wait a minute. I only wanted it when the money was coming out, not when the money's coming in, because we don't have, there's not many things working for that way. I think that trend will take place. Just anybody can ask, because I'm curious. Does anybody have a doomsday scenario in their mind as to where things are going to go for the market in second quarter next year, third quarter next year? Don't be shy if you do. We won't point and laugh. Do anybody have a doomsday scenario that if rates go to 7.5 or 8, that we could see a cessation of activity?
I really believe that we're gonna see another strong spring market.
Okay.
In February, March is gonna be another strong market because people are waiting. They're waiting
Yes.
because they're thinking,
Yes.
well, like you said, with the elections and everything coming on, they don't wanna destroy the economy with that. They're gonna perhaps do
Right.
something to try to turn it around. So what I'm kind of hearing is the rates might actually like stabilize in the high 4s, maybe in the 5s.
Right.
Maybe, but they might go to 7 first, we don't know. It's
No,
just
I think
the
that's
unknown.
scenario.
It's the unknown.
Irrespective of the time, I think you're absolutely right. It's just a question of when. I wish the Fed wasn't a bunch of crotchety Keynesian, old school economics book people who've admitted they made mistakes. I mean, we really shouldn't let them manipulate like that. But of course, the government is in the business. They are in the mortgage business on the back end in every way. And now you got the Fed divesting itself of the mortgage backs, which it bought, $11 trillion of them. So that's what's going to happen. Is when is there
But
enough?
if this becomes the new normal, it's the new normal, right? If
Right.
the rates in the high 6s become the new normal.
Sure.
I mean, I was a lender when there was 15%.
Yeah,
way back
right.
when. But I understand that nobody understands that, relatively
Sure.
speaking, what we're dealing with now. But people still have to sell. I don't think the house prices are gonna crash down like they did in 2007 and 2000. That's not gonna happen. They may not get 150,000 over asking,
Because they can stay put in their three,
but they get, yeah.
but it doesn't help us for
But
transactions.
this area, we're a bubble.
For sure, oh, for sure. Yeah, listen, I watch blogs in all parts of the country, and there's some markets that have come to a screeching halt
Yeah.
that don't have the benefit of the
But we have
government.
the government, so everything's always moving.
Look, I think it'll be fine. I do think it's a challenge, and I know we're going along here a little bit. I want to give everybody a card. Don't hesitate to text me, call me. I will do a private for you, but you're gonna have to say, yeah, I mentioned Scott's thing. Okay, I mean, I'll do it. And I know it sounds so dumb. I just don't want to do them. Nobody wants to do them. Once you see my great cards, this is a trick we learned when we dress like bums. Today's very formal for me. Give out great cards, but don't hesitate to do that. I hope this is helpful to you. And I apologize for the grumpiness. I used to do these when in 04 and 05, it was all apple, peaches, pumpkin pie. I did my license in Florida and Nevada. Everybody was just feeling great. It's much more work. And the other thing about litigious, it's litigious. I mean, it's amazing what they'll go after a licensed person. Your E&O will help you. But the one I was telling you about in Mount Vernon, they're going after that agent. Now, if that agent knew that they paneled over that, or that agent saw that base before they paneled over those injection cracks, it's going to be a problem. Because first they're going to get them for, an insurance, then they're going to get them for fraud and inducement. And then it's a problem. So everything's all happy-pappy, but think about that in your fees. And obviously, I'm back with my fees in again. You can't do something for $250. These stupid appraisals, they're coming back 8-9 years later. Hey, Flagstar put me on the blacklist out of Nevada. And I had a comp here, property called Nevada Hills, not 200 yards west of the Mandalay Bay from the Independent. The property was fine. And the dude that did the appraisal for me, and I signed rights, was licensed and died of cancer. He was a borax miner. He died of cancer during the investigation. So I never went in the house, lawful. But you go back and go, I made $550. I mean, it wasn't, obviously I lost money, but if I made $250, I said, you know what I'd rather done? None of this. I'd rather not, I'll come out and hand this to you. I'm not talking to you. I'd have to be mean everything I said.
I know we had a lot of topics here.
Stuff that's been going on. I mean, we just came through a market where there were so many transactions that were done off market.
Yeah.
And so how does that skew?
It's a great question. It's a great question. It's a question about, so if we can get the details of the transaction, let me give you, so we see a cash sale. It's an outreach on our side. I get a cash sale, it's a good comp, but I have no deposits. I have no buyer, I have no seller, I have no realtor, I have nothing. So I have nothing. So if we can't get any details on the transaction, it's hard for us to use. That's where the off market comes in. But you can provide it to us, and a lot of times, look, I farm Buttercup Woods, and I know what's going on, and I know it's helpful. And so if we can get a
Yeah, there's a ton of deals that were agents on both ends, selling and buying, but it just never hit the Amazon.
yeah, so if you come upon someone to provide it, and before, who cares? They have 30 cows, we don't have 31, who cares? But now it matters, because it might be the next door neighbor. And so, but you guys can get a little more information. Back to my fellow, age more cooperative than they used to be. I don't send them, hey, Margie, how are you? I asked you a question. They got something else to do. But the agent feedback to the appraiser is really important. Once I've got it, I use it. But remember, big brother and Scott, once I use it, I don't watch it stop. Because I get comp suggestions in the software. So once I put it in there and I use the referral source, I'll say, party to the transaction, agent, gotta use it. I can't just say MLS. It's not permissible. That's another thing. You send me a problem on a low one, you send me something, I'll pick through that thing in minutes. I'll pick through that in minutes. So don't hesitate to do that. I mean, I think you still can get low appraisals. There's still a little leftover exuberance. 2 GS14s feeling pretty good. Both of the government 20 years. Both retired military. You know, I'm sick of looking. They buy and they pay here. So you still may have that. I can look at those appraisals and see. You also still have those shopping lenders, and we still see them close. Low appraisal, lender 1, better appraisal, lender 2, not arguing on the fee, doesn't matter, and they still close it. So does Fannie and Freddie know what happened? They know what happened. They still close it anyway. So we're not, now it may not be a delta of $100,000. But as time goes on, even with a rosy scenario, I have a very good lady that's the COO of a big corporate company, and I just chatted with her. And I said, what's going to happen? That good same thing. By Q2 next year, they're going to realize the mistake, we're going to turn it around. I think that's a little quick because everything's 90 days in arrears. I mean, it takes 6 months to get 2 quarters in arrears.
But things happen out of perception, not
Yeah,
necessarily.
you're right.
It's perception
That's right.
is everything.
That's right.
The stock
For sure.
market, the loans.
For sure.
The loan rate started going up before anything even happened.
That's exactly right. And they're going up to try to kill something. The appraiser and realtor and housing market are an unintended consequence. We're trying to kill inflation. But we may not get it. If we don't get it, we kill the housing market too. We're going to have to give up.
If the stock market comes up, it'll help because people feel
Right?
better. They feel like, oh,
That's right.
401k is looking
That's right.
nice now.
Yeah.
I'm empowered.
That's
So
exactly right.
I'm okay. I'm okay. I can pay.
Look, I agree with you.
I will marry the house and date the rate, right?
That's
So,
exactly,
I
well,
mean, I'll
that's
just-
a great phrase. Look, I've always changed with Roman bottle caps for money. I'm not that old, but I'm old enough that it's hard for me to focus on. I mean, I have a lot less time than I did in the front of this thing. I have 5 grandkids. I've been married forever. I just but I agree with you, but I'm not here to talk up this level of the economics. I just talk to people all day long, and I ask the realtors. I'd say the realtor's mood is better now than it was in the downturn of 6, 7, and 8. So it's hope is going to turn it around, but you can't have 21 cents on every dollar going in the crap box. You just can't do it. And there's going to be pain. Listen, in my shop, I had 3 girls on schedule. One of them was $6,500 a month. One was like I saved like 14 grand a month. And 2, we didn't need them. And then my other people who were working all the time, I'll do that. Oh, I can do her job. And they were willing to step up. So I hope you're right. I think we can still make new sales. It's just, you got to get paid. That takes some bravery. You guys could, the commission's going to go back to 6%. I know that's what I mean.
So all the top agents, at least where I work, out of Cascades,
Yeah.
Los Island, Ruston,
Sure.
they all advertise 4%, 4%, 4%, 4%. I mean, it's
No, I know.
everything is 4%.
I know.
So it's kind of hard to compete with that, because it's all over the place.
I know. You see how good they're fixed. What? They're great cars. You get away with murder. Yeah, great cars. They're not so cheap. So that was one of them. I was actually in Vegas. And the guy, they let me keep these
We'll
cars.
see.
He gave it to me. They're
And top are off the shelf.
Great cars. You look like a bum.
Thank you so much.
Yes, definitely. Nice to meet you.
Oh, yeah, good to have you guys out.
Thank you.
Text or email me anytime. I'm happy. If it requires a phone call, call me. I will get back.